Good evening. Let's stand together. I just want to welcome you to this youth summit. All of you that are in this room, except for the old folks, all the rest of you that are in this room, you are the hope of the future of this nation. I just want to tell you. The Bible says to buy the truth and never sell it. And that's the charge to your generation in the middle of a day when there is so much stuff going on that's not true. Find the truth and stand with that and preserve this great nation. Let's pray together. Thank you, Lord, for this event and for every one of these folks that are here tonight, particularly every young person. I pray for every speaker that the words they speak will be words of life and words of challenge and a charge to each one of these that are in the room. I pray that we will leave this place having a heart change, our lives challenged to stand up in the middle of this day for what is right and righteous. I ask you to come, God, into this house in these days. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Steve Riggle, for that prayer, and he also was gracious enough to open up his church to us today. So if we can just give him a round of applause just to thank him. So next up, we will be having Sheriff Rand Henderson and Constable Ryan Gable to do the pledges.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see everyone's already standing. What a great crowd, and it's such an honor to be here in front of you. Let's turn and address the American flag and say the pledge to the greatest country in the world. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Also an honor to be here, you guys, and thank you all for coming out to participate in this event. If we can pledge the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you all.
All right, so next up we will be having Kenneth come up, and he will be doing the national anthem on his saxophone. Well, that was so beautiful. Can we give him another round of applause? So next up, we are going to be having Pastor Chase Hassara and Pastor Philip to lead worship.
Coming on the clouds, kings and kingdoms will bow down, and every chain will break as broken hearts declare His praise. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Somebody help me say, our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before Him. So open up the gates, make way before the King of Kings. Our God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before Him. Oh, who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Yeah. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? No one. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Yeah, I say, who can stop the Lord Almighty? No one. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? No one. Who can stop the Lord? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before Him. You give life, you are bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. Help me say, it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Yeah. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. Somebody help me say, it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Say, and all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Oh, all the earth, say all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. And oh, what a Savior. Isn't he wonderful? Sing hallelujah. Christ is risen. And bow down before him, for he is Lord of all. Sing hallelujah. Christ is risen. Oh, what a Savior, and oh, what a Savior. Isn't he wonderful? And sing hallelujah. 'cause it's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we sing, it's your breath in our lungs. Oh, it's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you
That was so beautiful. It has always been so important with Texas Youth Summit that God is the first priority, and so we always like to start off with worship every year. Next up, we're going to be having my brother Christian Collins come up. He's the founder of Texas Youth Summit. He's the founder of Texas Youth Summit. He's a professor. He is a lover of Jesus, a lover of America, and he loves to serve others. And so I'm so proud of him and excited to introduce y'all to my brother, Christian Collins.
It's so important to know why you believe what you believe. Not just the right answers, but why you believe what you believe.
Because you can come from a Christian conservative home, and yet you go off to college, and these colleges are liberal indoctrination camps. It's like the house built on sand. They fall apart.
I am so optimistic about what I'm seeing today, and I'm optimistic about our country at large. America's the greatest country in the world and the most exceptional nation, and we live in the greatest state in the union here in Texas, right? God bless Texas, amen? It is so good to see you. Turn to your neighbor and say, you look good. Awesome. Man, wasn't that music good? That's enough to make a Baptist go Pentecostal. Well, I got some shirts to give away before I get started, so I wanted to pass these out. Who wants a shirt? That's like always my favorite part. Jesus is king, am I right? And America is exceptional. Well, my name is Christian Collins. I founded Texas Youth Summit, and I'm so thankful that you're all here today. I'm thankful for every volunteer that helped make this happen. We would not have as successful as an event if it were just me doing this. There's so many people that have helped me make this successful, and I'm just so grateful to each and every one of them. I want to thank Grace Church. If you don't have a church, I wholly endorse this church, and I encourage you to come back on Sunday morning for Sunday service and check it out. Amazing church. And Pastor Steve Riggle is an amazing Bible teacher, somebody I aspire to be like, and he's just an amazing man of God. So go to this church if you don't have a church already. Texas Youth Summit is necessary because we are combating the woke ideology that's being taught in our public school system. Everything from gender to race ideology is being taught in our schools. And there are some very good teachers. I have family that teach in the public school system, so I'm not singling out everybody. I'm saying, though, the left is invading our public school system, and they have an agenda to change the hearts and minds of our youth. And so Texas Youth Summit is necessary because we're doing everything in our physical power to combat that, to do everything that we possibly can to get people on the right path so that they can become contributing, successful adults. And by the way, how many homeschoolers do we have here? Cheer a little bit for me. If there is anything that was good from the Chinese communist coronavirus that was unleashed on the world, it's that homeschooling went up. And you know what? If you don't like what's going on in the public school system and you have the means to do it, homeschool your kids. It's a beautiful thing. If you feel you're supposed to stay in the public school system, then parents, if you're able, run for school board or support those who do. We need concerned parents to fight to take our country back. We need patriots who will run for county chair or precinct chair positions, who will get involved on the local level to fight to take our country back. And if you aren't registered to vote, we have a great group of people out there that will register you, so make sure that you go register to vote before this conference is over. We have to be voting. The people of this country have to take it back, and the way that we do that is through the voting system. Or join a conservative group on campus. Be a part of a conservative group. There's lots of them, pro-life clubs, conservative clubs. Be a part. And you know what? We're not afraid at this organization to speak out about what's going on boldly and to declare that there are only two genders. We have a young lady that I met speaking at Sam Houston State University the other day. Her name is Emily, and she's going to share her story tomorrow. But in summary, she was radicalized by watching TikTok videos. She came from a pastor's home, and that was the impression that she got, that she was not the right gender. And so she's come out of that way of thinking, and now she wants to share her story. It'll be in one of our breakout rooms, 2 o'clock tomorrow, so make sure that you check that out. So you are all here today because you want to make a difference. That's why you're here, am I right? You want to make a difference in your high schools, in your colleges, in your universities. You want to do everything that you possibly can to make a difference. And we hope that after you are at this conference, and I encourage you to pay attention, get some good sleep tonight, drink some caffeine in the morning, take notes, and stay all the way till 6 o'clock because we have an action-packed lineup. Tonight, you're going to hear from so many great people, from Ken Paxton to Candace Owens, to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Ted Cruz. Tomorrow, you're going to hear from so many great speakers. I'm probably missing some of them, but Allie Beth Stuckey, Kaylee McEnany. You'll have a virtual Q&A with Donald Trump Jr., and you'll have Congressman Matt Gaetz. and Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, and a whole bunch more. But if you want to hear all of them, you got to stay to the end, guys, so make sure you come back. Little side note there. But in spite of everything that is going on in our country, I want to assure you that I am so optimistic about our country because of the people, the men and women, the young leaders in this room. And I'm encouraged because I know that we can take our country back. I want to give you some helpful tips about how to go about doing that. And this is going to be a little bit of personal development. I'm going to give you a little roadmap of where we're going, and then I'm going to talk about the direction the Republican Party needs to go. For you guys, America is still the place of opportunity. If you work hard, show up on time, do your best, you're honest, you have integrity, then let me tell you, good things will happen to you. America is still the place of opportunity. Almost every door that I've ever had open to me was not applying on some online job portal, but it was actually meeting people. Life moves at the speed of a relationship, so make sure you get out there and you go meet people. When we fail, guys, what we have to do is we have to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and keep going. So keep going. I don't need to tell you guys here that you need to work hard because you guys already know that. You're the best of the best. You're here at this conference, and you're doing everything that you can to better yourself by being here. You know that we need to start adulting, and we need to be mature. You know those things. Maybe you've spent so much time on your resume, but let me tell you what's more important than your resume, and it's your character. So just as much as you're building your resume to be somewhere or be somebody, make sure that you're building your character. And I don't know about some of you, but I suspect there's some people here that are aspiring to be influencers, social media influencers, maybe podcast hosts, nonprofit leaders, elected officials, authors, speakers, writers, on Fox News one day. Or maybe you don't want to be in politics at all, but you have other aspirations. Well, let me tell you that you can spend your entire life trying to build something, years, even decades, and squander it in just a couple of minutes or even seconds because of poor decision making. I'll let that sink in for a second. Because if you don't make the right decisions now to be who you're supposed to be, then that will change the outcome of your life. And you know what? You might get away with it. But what good is it to be a public success and a private failure? What good is it? And you know what? You can gain the whole world and lose your own soul. At the end of the day, what matters is your integrity and your character, and that you're truly who God has called you to be. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Guard your heart. It's so important to guard your heart. And let me give you a couple of tips and how to go about that. There's 3 of them. Number 1, healthy boundaries. There are some lines that you shouldn't cross. There are some things that you shouldn't do, people you shouldn't spend time with, places you shouldn't go and don't belong, things that you shouldn't think, things that you shouldn't laugh at, things that you definitely shouldn't post or say. And you have to figure out what that is, and you have to have those boundaries set up in your life so that you can be the future husbands and fathers, wives, mothers that you're called to be. And it's so important that right now you build healthy boundaries of things you know that you can't do, lines that you will not cross. And I think this really comes sometimes, there's some great things in life, knowing your weaknesses and vulnerabilities as you get to know yourself and self-discovery, and realizing that it may not be wrong for everybody, but it's definitely wrong for you. Number 2, find accountability. Find spiritual accountability. Find someone in your life who will know you. You make yourself known to someone, and you can know them too, but they mentor you and coach you, and they can help you overcome your anxiety, your depression, your inadequacies, the things that you're insecure about. Maybe it's sin. We all walk through things, and it's so important that we walk through them with the people that love us and that care about us and that want us to see better. You can let anger get to your heart, and you can have a revengeful heart. You can spend years of your life sidetracked trying to get revenge on someone and miss your calling and purpose. There's a quote that I love, and I strive to live by. The only people that you should get even with are the people that have helped you. Easy to say, hard to live by. But find people that can keep you accountable. Number 3, dealing with your critics. Remember that when you step out in faith to do something, people are going to say, oh, you're too young. You're too inexperienced. You don't have the qualifications. Don't listen to them. Do as the Apostle Paul told Timothy. He said, let no one despise you because of your youth, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. 1 Timothy 4:12. Remember that you can make a difference, and pray, whenever you do pray, that God will give you wisdom beyond your years. Pray that in this life, at 20 years old, you can have the wisdom of a 60-year-old seasoned person that's lived their life on target. Pray for that wisdom and maturity and see what God will do. I love this quote. Life is a long road of obedience in the same direction. And when you take steps, you have to walk the straight and narrow. It's hard to live by, but it's easy to say, isn't it? There's a scripture that says, the steps of the righteous are ordered, and he delights in your way. Psalm 37:23. So important that we trust that when we do what's right, we may not get everything we want in life, but things are going to work out. So in everything you do, strive to do what's right. This is something that's been on my heart for a long time, and I'm just so blessed to feel that I was able to give it to you today. Those were my thoughts on personal development. Now let me talk to you about the Republican Party. There are a lot of people that call themselves conservative. They run as conservatives in the primary, but they don't govern as such when they're elected. They say one thing, and then they do exactly the opposite. And you want to come up here and speak? So they have a really good comms director to help them put lipstick on a pig and talk their way out of it. It's why we use the word rhino, Republican in name only, because they have an R next to their name, but they're not doing what you know they're supposed to be doing. So I want to talk to you about being the right kind of conservative. Many of us are tired of the Republican Party that continually capitulates to the Democrats. Who, by the way, I'm convinced do not love America as we do. It's why I've invited speakers to speak here, because we've invited the people who are getting our country back to the way it's supposed to be, our constitutional roots. Some people are calling them the new right. Well, the new conservative party, because we're tired of the old way of thinking where you moderate your positions because your consultant says that's going to be how you win elections. That's quite the opposite of what President Ronald Reagan said. He said, paint in bold colors and not pale pastels. It's so important that our Republican Party actually stands for something. Who realize that the legislation that the Democrats are putting forward isn't meant to help this country. We want a Republican Party that cares more about our southern border than we do Ukraine's borders. We've spent $60 billion on Ukraine, but we couldn't get Donald Trump $5 billion to build his southern border wall? Ridiculous. We're a movement that cares about election integrity. What happened in 2020 should never, ever happen to a president ever again. We're speaking out against the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum. We need Republican leaders who will do everything that they can to keep the Chinese Communist Party and Bill Gates from buying up our farmland because they mean no good. And China definitely should not be buying farmland near our military bases. We believe in vaccine choice. The government should definitely not be forcing our children to take those vaccines. That, like education, should be decided by the parents. Our party needs to value the Texas oil rig workers, the muscular class in this country, as much as we do the Ivy League college professors. We need to encourage young people to consider trade school. You can make a lot of money doing some things like that, and our country needs it. And most of us probably will go to college. And I can say for me, it's been a good thing. Now, that being said, the point of this conference, though, is to prepare you to go fight on the cultural battlefield that is college. You've got to be ready, and you've got to be prepared for it. You got to know what you believe before you get there. Now, in conclusion, I want to encourage you to be strong and courageous. I don't know if you've seen this meme going around, but it's a really interesting meme, and someone sent it to me, and I find it fascinating because it's the cycle that our society goes through. You see, hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. We are teetering between number 3 and number 4. And I want to tell you about the greatest generation. I want to tell you a little story real quick. I heard the story of an 83-year-old Army veteran who had arrived in Paris by plane. As he was fumbling in his bag for his passport, a stern French customs agent asked if he had been to France before. He admitted that he had previously. The lady sarcastically said, "Well, then why don't you have your passport? You should know better." And he said, "Well, the first time I came to France, I didn't have a passport." She goes, "Impossible, impossible." And he said, "Well, when I came here, we were storming the beaches of Normandy. Mic drop. And that tells you all that you need to know. We need people that will stand up just like that generation did for truth in this generation. Our battlefield may not be that of a physical battlefield, and I pray to God it never is. But we need leaders and fighters that will go and fight the cultural war with that type of zeal and that type of passion. It takes courage to stand up for what you believe in. I'm reminded of a story, the American Revolution time. There were loyalists to the British, and there was a pastor named John Peter Muhlenberg. And he was speaking from Ecclesiastes to encourage his congregation to fight for this country. And he said, there's a time for war and there's a time for peace, and now is the time for war. And underneath his robe was a colonel's uniform, and him and 300 men with their muskets in arm went out to go fight the British. We need those type of fighters today that will stand up for truth and fight the culture war. On September 11th, 2001, when terrorists rammed planes into the World Trade Center, while everybody was running away, you saw our first responders, police officers, and firefighters running to the fire. That's what we need from this generation. We can't say, well, that's somebody else's responsibility. If we're going to lead and fight in this country and not just sit on the sidelines, we have to get involved in the fight and we have to run to the fire. I want to leave you with a little bit of encouragement. I'd always heard that Roe v. Wade would never be overturned. But thanks to President Trump, the greatest president of our lifetime, and his 3 Supreme Court picks, it happened. All of the work that we put in praying in front of 40 Days for Life in front of Planned Parenthood, all the work that we did to lobby our state legislators, all the work we did to elect President Trump paid off. That should give you some encouragement that if you work hard and don't give up, in spite of what people say about you, they're going to call you all types of bad names. Just remember that we can do it. So let's fight. Let's take back this country. And let's know that if we put in the work, we are unstoppable. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Texas.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We have the greatest Attorney General, don't we? He needs no introduction. Give it up for Ken Paxton.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, just for my information, how many of y'all, raise your hand if you're not from Texas? Okay, now put your hands out. For those of you who just raise your hand, how many of you wish you were from Texas? Welcome to Texas. Okay, another quiz question. How many of y'all think you know what an attorney general does? Raise your hand. Okay, it's not surprising. I'm going to give you a sort of quick civics lesson on what the attorney general does, at least in Texas. Now, it's a little varied around the country. Every state has different laws, so we're not all exactly the same, but it's similar. Typically, an overriding way to explain is we represent the state of Texas. We represent the state of Texas or whatever state we're from, and our job is to make sure that we represent the state in all litigation, all types of legal actions. And so I have a staff of about 4,200 people, 800 lawyers. It's a big office. I think it's the largest Republican office in the country, so we end up doing a lot of things, and I'll get into that in just a second. But we take care of all kinds of different things. So if the governor gets sued, we represent the governor. If the legislature gets sued, we represent them. If the state gets sued, any agency gets sued, we represent them. We also deal with things like child support. We collect child support to make sure that the non-custodial parent or the custodial parent is getting taken care of by the other parent, and that the kids are getting taken care of. So that's a huge, we have 2,700 people that just do that alone. We represent every state agency. We represent everything from the Department of Transportation to Health and Human Services. We also collect money for the state in bankruptcies. And then we have another division that deals with crime victims. So if there's a victim of a crime, say a shooting like Santa Fe, our people are down there to help with everything, medical expenses, funeral expenses. Typically, most people don't know that's something the Attorney General does. We also have a law enforcement division. I have about 200 police officers that work for me. And to be honest with you, as a lawyer, I didn't really know what to do with a bunch of guys with guns. But we've learned, and these people do some really significant things. They go after human traffickers. They go after, yes? They go after pedophiles, online predators. And we typically, every month, arrest over 100 fugitives a month. So if any of you are fugitives, you better start leaving now because we're going to find you. Well, the things that I think that really matter, we do take care of our state, but you might have heard, we occasionally sue the Biden administration. And just so you know, I think we've sued him in, well, he hasn't even been in office 2 years. We've only sued him 32 times. And I just want you to know, I don't sue him just because I feel like it, or I have a bad day or a bad cup of coffee. We sue him really for one reason. And that reason is pretty fundamental. It's pretty important. If you'll remember, we had this thing called the Constitution. And the Constitution had some pretty fundamental principles, and one of the main principles is this idea of separation of powers. 3 different branches of government. And the founders did that because they didn't trust government. They didn't trust power in the hands of too few people. And so they dispersed that power, and they left whatever they didn't get to the federal government, they gave to us. They left to the states. And our philosophy is that was pretty important. They stumbled onto something very important, in this idea of the Constitution protecting us, and that the Declaration of Independence said that these rights that we were given, they're not from the government. They're not created by the president. They're not created by any state. They're from God. And so they are our rights. And any government that takes those rights, we have a right to change or reform. So, of course, this kind of started in the Obama administration. You all old enough to remember Obama? Just want to make sure. Yeah, right. So I came in the last 2 years of Obama, and we sued him 27 times in 27 months, once a month, just to stay awake. And whatever those lawsuits are, and we have right now against Biden, we have 11 lawsuits related to immigration. We sued over the Keystone Pipeline. We sued over Obamacare. We've sued over all kinds of things. But the fundamental principle that I think is really important to understand is we sued because we have a federal government, we have an executive who's decided that the Constitution isn't relevant to him. And what I mean by that, instead of following federal law, like the immigration laws that say he's supposed to deport people that come here illegally, he doesn't have a choice. And yet he's made the decision, he made it on day one, and he told the cartels that they could bring whoever they wanted here and he would not deport them. That is not what federal law says. That's what Joe Biden said, that he wanted the law to be. And so he gave the signal to the cartels, bring as many people here as fast as you can, and I will let them in the country, and then I will transport them. They don't have to hide anymore. They can run, not away from the Border Patrol, but run to Border Patrol. And if you do that, you can make as much money as you possibly want because they charge about $10,000 a person. And that means these cartels are incentivized to bring as many people here as possible because they know they'll make a lot of money. They also know that the border is going to be wide open for drugs because now Border Patrol is not trying to stop all of that. They're so busy doing logistics. Well, so why is that important? And every one of our lawsuits is built on this same fundamental principle. It's not just that we disagree with the president over immigration. We disagree with him over the fact that he isn't staying within his constitutional role. Congress passed this. His job is to implement, not tell us what the law should be or that he's not following it. And if we don't hold him accountable, then we lose this balance of powers that protects us. The people that actually pass the laws are really us because we put the people in power to do that. And if he doesn't like those laws, he can go back to Congress and ask it to be changed. And I think it was Obama that taught them, you don't have to do that. You just change it through executive order, through some agency, or through some memorandum, and then you can just decide the law and then make everybody sue us. And what they hope is, one, that we're not paying attention, and that we won't sue them over everything. They'll just get some things done that way. And then they're hoping they'll win some in court. And then if they lose a few, then at least they've gotten a lot done that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten done because they couldn't get it through Congress. That's where we're at. And so I think it's really important, and this is why I was so interested in being Attorney General. I think it's really important that the states step up to the plate, Texas and other states that care about the Constitution, that care about freedom, that care about elected representatives who we put in power making decisions, not just one person, that we continue that fight, because if we don't do that, if we just let one thing go and say, well, we kind of agree with that, even though, we didn't do it the right way, well, if we let that happen, then we are saying to ourselves, we don't really care about the process of how the Constitution works. And once we start making exceptions, we lose the Constitution that gives us the freedoms that we all care about. So I remember, I'm going to just confess something. Can I confess something tonight? I actually sued President Trump twice. And guess what I sued him over? I sued him over Obamacare, which he didn't do. And I sued him over DACA, which he didn't do. He came into that. Obama was the one that had put those in place, and we were suing him over Obama policies. And I know you're going to be shocked by this, but I got this amazing opportunity. When he first got elected, I was asked to greet him at the airport. Are you guys okay if I tell a Trump story real quick? Okay. And I know it's not political, but, he was the president, just like Biden was. So I got this. Was that a Freudian slip? I don't know. So I was supposed to meet at the airport, Love Field. I'd never been asked to greet the president before in my life. And I was there with a guy you probably don't know, Ted Cruz. And we were waiting for, he was coming in to speak at the NRA convention, and so it's about a 20-minute drive. And first, the vice president came in on Air Force Two, and we greeted him, said, "Welcome to Texas, Mr. Vice President." And then he jumped in his limo and said, "You guys are doing a great job." And he went off to speak at the convention. Well, we were waiting. We had like 20 more minutes to wait. And his advance guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, the president just texted me, and he wants to know if you'd be willing to ride with him in the limo, the Beast, to the convention." And I said, "Well, let me think about it. Yes." So, president comes in. We greet him. He says, "Let's get in the limo." So it's me. Literally, I'm in the limo. Secret Service tells me where to sit. So if you ever get in the limo, listen to the Secret Service. It's really important. So I end up sitting right next to the president. Ted Cruz is across from the president, facing him. And I'm facing John Kelly, the chief of staff. So anyway, we're just riding in. And I'm just taking it all in, thinking, wow, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe I'm here. The roads are all shut down. Ted and the president are giving each other a hard time. I think the president said, "I don't know why you didn't take that Supreme Court thing. I would have gotten 100 votes to get you out of the Senate." So they're talking. I'm just laughing. And finally, the president turns to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to endorse you and Ted today. Who else should I endorse?" I'm like, "You're asking me? You don't even know me. Like, why would you ask me?" But I didn't say that. I was just thinking it. And I said, "Well, Governor Abbott's going to be here. I think you should endorse him." And I said, oh, you should endorse Angela Paxton." And he said, "Who's that?" I said, "Well, it's my wife. She's running for state senate." And he goes, "Tell me about her." So I did. And he goes, "Okay, I'll do it." And I'm looking at John Kelly. Can he do that? Just like that? He can just decide? So anyway, I didn't know if he'd do it. But we got to the convention center. And I didn't know where to go, because I usually have a security detail, and usually they're with me, but I was with the Secret Service. So we get out, and I just follow the president into the convention. And he walks into this really big room, and there's a TV, and Pence is already speaking. And I look in the room, and it's just the president. There's no Secret Service. There's no Ted Cruz. There's no John Kelly. So I turn around, I look behind me, and there's nobody behind me. And I'm thinking, I missed my turn, but I don't know where to go, and I don't know who to ask. I mean, do you ask the president, should I be here? What? I don't know. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. Should I ask him for directions? It just seemed like an awkward question to ask him. So I did what you did. What you would have done is he sat down, and I just went and sat next to him. And I didn't say anything because I didn't know I didn't even know. I was thinking, I am going to get arrested. I am 100% I'm in the wrong place. But, I mean, there's no one to talk to. So the president starts quizzing me. Like, "Okay, Ken, why did you sue me over Obamacare?" Like, uh-oh. So I told him, I said, "Mr. President, it's unconstitutional. I have to, because the Constitution matters more than you or me or anybody." So he asked me he grilled me for 5 or 6 minutes. And I'm just looking around, the Secret Service, where are they? So then he goes, okay, after 5 or 6 minutes, he goes, "Why did you sue me over DACA?" Now I'm like, man, this guy is on me. So I said, "Mr. President, it's unconstitutional. I know you didn't start it, but I had to sue you because it's wrong. We have to defend the Constitution." And so after 5 or 6 minutes, he all of a sudden, I think, actually after 15 or 20 minutes, finally the Secret Service starts coming in. I'm looking at him going, "Hey, I'm good. I'm not doing anything wrong." Ted walks in. John Kelly walks in. They leave us alone for another 10, 15 minutes. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, what is going on? How did I end up alone? So the story ends like this. He goes, "I got to go speak." And I said, "Well, Mr. President, please don't forget. I don't care if you forget everything else I said, but about the Constitution or me, just don't forget to endorse my wife." That's it. He goes, "I promise I'll endorse her." So I listen to him speak, and then within a few minutes, he endorses me, Ted Cruz, the governor, and Angela Paxton. Amazing, right? I'm like, that's crazy. And my wife is actually at the convention. She's at a women's lunch, and all of a sudden, like, her phone is blowing up. "Congratulations on your endorsement from the President of the United States." She's like, "What?" She said it was like ding, ding. Your phone is like ding, 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 like, because everybody's there, and she's not in there. So anyway, after about a few minutes, she goes, "Wait a minute, I don't know how this is happening, but I know that Ken's involved somehow." So she comes and finds me. I don't know how she does it, but she finds me. She goes, "What is going on?" And we're listening. The president's still speaking. I said, "Just trust me. It's all good. We're going to meet him afterwards. We're going to try to intercept him." So we wait for the speech is over. We intercept him, and I said, Mr. President, I want you to meet my wife, Angela. You just endorsed her. So we talked for a few minutes, and after a few minutes, he looks at me and goes, Ken, I'm really glad I endorsed her. I made a good decision. As a matter of fact, I like her better than you. I'm not kidding. That's what he said. And then he walks off and says, see you later, Ken. And I'm like, did this just happen? But you know what happened after that? It took a couple of more conversations. Over the course of 4 years, I ended up talking to him like 75 times. I was in the limo at least 12 times. I was even in his Suburban. Matter of fact, one time, this is kind of funny. One time, I was in the Suburban with the president, the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, John Cornyn, Ted Cruz, and me. And Dan really wanted to talk to the president, so I got in the back seat, which was really tight. And so Dan could sit in the front seat. But then when the two senators came, there was only room in the back seat with me. So literally, Ted Cruz's face is like right here. And you know, I really like Ted, but that was like too close for me. Yeah. And John Cornyn's legs were over the seat. It was bad. That's an aside. The moral of this story is what I loved about President Trump, and I think it's what we need in this country. It's what I think every leader should do, and that is he, despite the advice of his own cabinet, his own people, he listened to what he thought was best. He didn't know. He was quizzing me. I'm still not sure how that all happened. I asked Ted one time where he went. I forgot what his weird story was, but I want to know. If you get to talk to him, ask him where he went, because I don't really know for sure where he went. But the President of the United States changed everything. He switched sides. He came over to our side, and we ended up having California and New Jersey defend those lawsuits. And I think it's really important as we're fighting for our country, and I really believe we are. And I think all of our states matter in that fight. Texas being the largest Republican state, we have to be in the fight because we have the resources and we have to fight the Biden administration, which, by the way, we've won about 90% of our lawsuits against, which I really like. So I want to close by just saying that I think it's really great that you're here. You guys are of the age group that right now, I think it's the difference in the country. And we're not winning this age group. The age group that you're in, you guys really matter. You matter. You are the future. If you can influence your generation, we can hold on to this. But it's absolutely true. It is in my polling, it's this age that we're not doing well with. And that means that you guys have to help us. We need you. You're more important than your age suggests. You're really, really important because you have an influence with people close to your age. And they haven't gotten quite the same education as I got when I was in school. It's changed. And there's a lot more bias in our education that tends to move people away from freedom. And so I am so grateful that you all are here for this conference. This is an amazing opportunity to make connections that will last a lifetime, and it will be these connections. You all have enough people here to change our country. And so I want to encourage you to think about how you're going to do that, because if you don't, we can't survive. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for giving me such a nice, warm welcome, even though you're in my state. But God bless you for being here, for caring about our country, and for supporting people all over the country that are fighting to preserve that freedom that our founders gave us. God bless, and thank you all very much. Thank you all very much. I love you.
Howdy. Could you guys do me a favor? There's some empty seats. Could you all scoot in so that way the people that are standing in the back can actually have a seat? If you see an open seat near you, can you raise your hand? Okay, there's some openings here, guys. So if we could, let's fill all those spots so that way people aren't on their feet. And if you can scoot over and make way for people. Do your best. But we have a lot of people that are trying to find a seat, and we still have some empty ones. There's one up here, one right there. We're about to hear from Candace Owens in just a second. She needs no introduction. We are going to get a really cool video in just a second. She's the founder of Blexit. She's an amazing, strong, powerful leader in our party, in our movement. And you know what? If you haven't bought her book out there, make sure you do. Good. Follow her on social media. Subscribe to the Daily Wire, her show. Her husband does some pretty cool things too, so go check out what he does. Look it up, he does some cool things. So without further ado, I want to give it up for Candace Owens. Give it up for Candace Owens.
My country tears of thee, sweet land of liberty of thee I sing.
Minorities do not belong to the left. We belong to nobody but ourselves and God. This is our official Declaration of Independence from the left. This is the beginning of the revolution, and we are going to save America.
What's up, Texas? It's so good to see you guys. It's so good to be back. I love you. You guys have a seat. Man, so great to be back in the great state of Texas. I am here a lot. It is one of my favorite states, definitely, probably, maybe my favorite state. Let's see. Kim Kardashian's having a bad week. I've seen this, people are commenting and seeing this video of me going viral discussing this unbelievable cultural moment in which we realize that her own mother intentionally released a sex tape about her. They decided to do this for fame. And a lot of people ask, why do we comment on culture? Why do we offer commentary on culture? Why do we follow culture? Well, it's because it's time for counterculture, which is, being Christian, having values, having decency, having morals, to respond and to recognize evil where it stands, right? It was Andrew Breitbart that said that politics is downstream from culture, and he was correct. The things that we're seeing today and the things that we're fighting about, it's all because the left seized Hollywood and the left won culture, and conservatives just allowed them to. It's why there's nobody you're not allowed to be a conservative and in Hollywood. They'll chase you out of there, right? It's because they know how important it is to seize minds by controlling what we see on TV. And so, of course, I had to respond to her, like I had to respond a year ago to Chrissy Teigen, why I had to respond to so many of these celebrities who think that they have the audacity to tell us how we have to live. Not anymore, right? Not anymore. So here's what I want to illuminate for you guys. It's very important every time I give a speech that I clarify what is happening. A buddy of mine who I love, Dennis Prager, and he's a wonderful, wonderful man. But we were sitting down on my show, and I was sort of working through all of these crazy things that the left gets obsessed with. And I said, why do they do this, right? Why are they, like, everybody was happy and living great, and then suddenly they started a big debate about bathroom signs. They were like, bathroom signs are oppressive. What? Nobody said that ever until suddenly the left really started saying that. I don't know any person who was offended by a sign on a bathroom that just said male or female, but suddenly it's a form of oppression, and children can pick their gender, and you're going, how on earth? I mean, these are unimaginable discussions 10 years ago. You just couldn't even imagine that we would even be having these discussions, right? And then they do other weird things, just when you like see that bit of craziness. Then they do other weird stuff, and they've got children that are cutting class because they're afraid they're gonna die in 10 years because of a climate disaster, right? And then they get this weird girl, Greta Thunberg, in creepy Addams Family pigtails, to jump on a ship to meet Donald Trump at the UN and say, how dare you, right? What? Why are you guys doing this? You're not allowed to say anything about her, even though she was actually 17 at the time. They dressed her up like a 6-year-old so that they could say she's a child. You can't say anything about her, and she's concerned about her climate, and that's why she's on a ship, and that's why she's on a train, and that's why she has to come respond to politics, which is like, where are her parents? Why is she allowed to skip school for an entire year to do this? Actually, if I had known that you could skip school for an entire year to do that, I would have done that, because I got a lot of absences in high school. I would have said, I'm just fighting for my climate, if I had known that was an acceptable excuse. But you look at that and you go, what are they doing? Because kids are actually traumatized, by the way. There are kids that really do believe. They're crying, and they're holding these signs, and they're protesting because they do believe that the world is going to end because of a climate disaster. And to those children and anybody in this room who possibly thinks that that could become true, let me clarify something for you. When I was in school, they told us we were all going to die because of global warming, right? So we were made to watch a movie that was called Inconvenient Truth. It featured Al Gore, and they showed us these polar bears that were drowning, and they said, the polar bears are all going to die unless you care about your climate, because the earth is going to get so warm. And we were like, oh my gosh, the polar bears, which I never cared about polar bears and never really thought about it, but suddenly I was very scared for the polar bears. Quick update, in case you guys are wondering, their polar bear population has gone up since the time that they were traumatizing us. Complete lie. Complete lie. And then what happened was around 2011, the climate actually started to cool for a couple of years. So they stopped saying global warming. They just completely got rid of the word. And then I started reading more about climate disaster and looking into the research, and they've actually, every generation, they just make up a new disaster that never happened. So there was the ozone layer generation. They were told there's a hole in the ozone layer. I see a lot of adults nodding like, yeah, I remember that. Oh, that didn't happen. But they had everybody traumatized for a while, and you have to want to go out and protest the ozone layer. Oh my gosh, doesn't happen. Then there was the generation of global cooling, who were told, yep, I see people nodding, yeah, that the earth was gonna freeze. So it was the opposite of global warming. It was gonna be so cold that everybody was gonna die, and everyone was gonna be freezing, and maybe only the Eskimos were gonna survive, except that didn't happen because the earth started warming up a little bit. And then the worst generation to ever suffer the climate lobby and the climate alarmism, I always think, is the generation that was told that acid rain was gonna end the world. They were told that the oceans were going to become so acidic that the rain, when it was literally going to rain acid. So if you were a kid and you lived in, I don't know, New Mexico, you might have been fine. It doesn't rain too much. But if you were a kid living in Seattle, think about it. They were scared every single time it rained, thinking that they were going to die, right? Staying inside. And they just keep doing this. They've been wrong every single time, but it doesn't matter. They come up with a new phrase. And finally, I think they got smarter in the last couple of years and said, wow, we've been wrong so many times. We better just come up with an all catchphrase like climate change. So now the kids will cry, whether it rains, whether it snows, whether it's sunny. They'll just say, oh, because of climate change, and it's a hurricane, climate change, tornado, climate change, nothing, climate change. There's nothing happening. It's climate change. And it's, by golly, it's working. I don't know. Kids are scared. And I'm from Connecticut. We have 4 seasons. We used to just call that the season changing, But now kids are traumatized, and so we have to pretend that there's going to be some disaster around the corner. And so you ask yourself, what's that about? So first they're screaming about these bathroom signs, and now they're screaming about every time it rains or snows or does nothing. What do these two things have in common, right? What is the left after? Why are they actually doing this? And that's not it, of course. Of course, there's the push from radical feminists. Like the craziest people that have ever lived, I swear to you, are the women that call themselves feminists. And if you ever see a girl and she's too hardcore about it, like, I'm feminist AF, feminism, I love feminism, I just love girls, promise you she hates girls. Promise you she hates women. Promise you she has no girlfriends, right? It's just a weird, like, little thing that people are doing now, and they are always out of their minds. And in reality, this is not about equality. They just like to use words borrowed from the past, right? Like, feminism used to mean something, right? Racism used to mean something. Now it's just an ism that they say so that you're not allowed to argue with them, right? I'm a feminist, so if you say anything against what I say, then you hate women, right? You're a misogynist. I'm saying this because I'm a woman, right? I am saying this because I'm an anti-racist, and if you disagree with me in any capacity, it's because you're a racist. But yeah, the feminist movement, as they're attempting to still call it, they're not looking for equality with men. I mean, what is it that a man can do in society that a woman can't do? There's no law they're fighting to get passed. In fact, what they're trying to do is to make women hate men. What they're after is the absolution of men. They want no men. They want it to be obsolete for you to be a person that is a man and celebrates your manhood, any displays of masculinity, right? They think there's something wrong with masculinity, and they call it actually toxic masculinity. And for the record, toxic masculinity is a phrase that was invented by a toxic woman, okay? Masculinity is a good thing. There is no society that can survive without strong men. Now, but aside from hating men, they also hate women, right? So when they see a woman and she looks happy and she looks like she's showered, right? Because their new thing is like, I'm not shaving my armpits. That's about the patriarchy. I'm like, okay, like, yes, right? They're shaving their heads. They want to look like dudes. If you don't like me because I'm stinky and I have purple hair, it's because the patriarchy. And it's like, no, it's because you're stinky. Like, you stink. That's why I don't like you, right? Common sense. But they develop this persona, which is like, they have to be super ugly, and if you don't like them, it's your fault. And they make themselves unbeautiful when they see a happy woman, a woman that is confident in her own skin, a woman that is pursuing family and productive relationships, a woman that aspires to have children, a woman that wants to raise her children. By the way, the toughest job in the world is to be a good mother. Toughest job in the world. But when they see that, they hate that, and they attack it. So you've got these radical feminists, you've got Greta Thunberg, you've got the bathroom signs that are somehow making people cry, and you just look up sometimes and you go, am I crazy, or is the world crazy, right? I'm like, am I going crazy, or is everybody just being super extra insane? And the answer, by the way, that Dennis Prager gave me, he said, the left just likes chaos. What the left is after is just chaos. You have to understand that there is no form, there is no methodology. But actually, I sat down and I thought about it, and as much as I love him and he is a mentor to me, I figured out that on that one point he was incorrect. No, it's not just chaos they're after. They're smarter than that. They're way more methodical than that, right? They're diabolical, these people, right? They're planned. Every step that they do leads to something. Look around you. Look how much success they've had in terms of destroying our society. Don't ever think that they're stupid. They're incredibly smart. They're brilliant. And what is the one thing that connects all of those categories together? And I figured it out, ladies and gentlemen. It is family. What the left wants to do is destroy family, right? So now you revisit those bathroom signs and the gender debate, and you realize they are encouraging young children to take puberty blockers, right? To stop themselves from going through puberty, as if you could just press pause on puberty and decide to restart it later. These people end up fully deformed in their adulthood, of course, right? They have no normal sexual functions, and you see people talking about this, people that identify as formerly trans, talking about what their bodies went through and how horrific it was and how depressed they are. Well, of course, those people are not going to grow up and have productive families. There's no way that they can. And then you look at scary Greta Thunberg, who looks like Wednesday from the Addams Family. And by the way, she's over 18 now, so it's open season. And you go, okay, now that makes sense, because when you read the headlines and you hear people like AOC, they say you should not, it would be selfish of you to have families, to start families, to have children. In fact, they actually awarded Meghan Markle and Prince Harry with an award for agreeing to only have 2 kids. They said that that's a good thing for the climate. Having big families is bad for the climate. You should not aspire to have big families. And AOC, of course, got right in line and said, oh, I don't know if I'm going to have kids because of this looming climate disaster. Good thing. We support that decision. AOC, if you are watching, we agree. That's okay. The climate is changing, and you should not have a huge family. But you think about that, right? And this is another way that they're doing it. And then you look at radicalized feminism, which is demanding that men act like women, while at the same time bizarrely demanding that us women act like men, right? They're suddenly saying, you need to go to work and climb the corporate ladder, and if you want to stay at home, then that's just because you believe in the patriarchy. You don't realize the patriarchy is all around you. And what does that accomplish? Of course, the breakdown of family, because when women are out of the home, and they are not the CEO inside of the household, when they don't know what's going on with their children, the state steps in. What the left wants is the state to loom and to control over every single area of our lives. And in order for that to happen, there can be no families. The families stay in the way of the state from becoming omnipotent. The families are this thing between the state and absolute power, which is what they're after. What they want is for people to, when they have a problem, rather than turning to mom and dad, they turn to the state for solutions, right? That's what they want. That's also why they denigrate Christians. You think about it's so weird, right? You're like, why do they hate Christians so much? Why are they so proudly atheistic? Why do you have people like Joy Behar mocking Pence, Vice President Pence, on television? Why does Hollywood, you are not allowed to be a person that goes to church and believes in the Bible? Why do they want to denigrate faith so much? It's because they will have more power if they are dominating over people that are faithless, right? Because faithless people believe that this is it, right? That's what you saw sweep this nation during COVID, when people were saying, I'll do anything, I'll give anything to you, government, anything, please, just keep us alive. Suddenly the government turned into God, which is what they want, right? They want to be God. They don't want you to have a God. They want to be God. People were on their hands and knees praying for more governance. Please tell me when to go outside. Please wear a mask, save lives. Oh, I can't see my dying mother or my dying father. That's fine. They can die alone. I need to live one more day. It was the right thing for me to do. We are in this together. Oh my gosh, how communist is that phrase? I am not in anything with Hillary Clinton. We're all in this together, they said, as Obama threw himself a birthday party on Martha's Vineyard. I didn't get an invite. I did not get an invite. But they start saying these words to make you think that it's all about what you're doing is you're sacrificing for one another, but in reality, all you're doing is sacrificing for more governance. You're making the government more powerful, and the government gets to tell you whether you can walk outside of your door, whether or not you can open your own business, whether or not you can put food on the table, whether or not you can go to the grocery store, when you can go to the grocery store, whether or not you're an essential business. What the hell does that mean? Every business is essential for a person that wants to put food on the table. Every job is essential. And so it's so important that we are conscious about what it is that they want. What we are actually fighting in this nation are a group of people that want a full socialist, communist nation. And they are not hiding it, right? They want the haves and the have-nots, and they deem themselves to be the haves. In many ways, they have sold us out. And they use Hollywood, of course. They use these cultural icons to sell it to us. Who are the first people? Every time there's a bad idea, who are the first people to sell it? Hollywood. You go online, and they're designing masks and looking and doing poses like this in their masks. # save lives. the most ridiculous things. And they're trying to make it seem like somehow wearing a mask is desirable, and and kids are just eating it up, going, oh, well, I guess Kim K's in a mask. Oh, she's selling masks, so I'm just going to buy it, and I'm going to do it. You're not thinking. And this is why, by the way, the Bible talks about why idolatry is wrong, right? Because what is Hollywood if not a form of idolatry? People that are deciding how they should vote and how they should live and what they should do and how they should raise their kids according to what celebrities like Taylor Swift think and want, because they've trained us to glorify them, right? That was ironic. I realized my shirt says glorify. But that's the truth. They have trained us to glorify them. And I always say that if you really want to know how successful the government can be in this campaign, if we are not conscious to it, then you need but look at Black America. Because Black America for them was the experiment, right? They looked at Black America in the 1950s, and believe it or not, you're not even going to believe this, and I promise you can look it up. In the 1950s, under Jim Crow, Black Americans were outpacing white Americans in terms of economic growth. The reason? Because we had good values and our families were together. We had faith, right? And it's true. But the government saw that and said, At that time, the government was racist. LBJ is probably the most racist president that has ever sat in the Oval Office. Said, that can't be. So what should we do? And that's when the government came knocking on Black America's door and said, you know what? That history of slavery, we got to correct that for you guys, right? So it wasn't about just passing the Civil Rights Act, which was a good thing, right? They then decided to pass the Great Society Act, which said, oh, giving you equal rights isn't enough. We have to give you more than that. And that is when the government offered Black America welfare, right? We'll give you money, but we're going to incentivize bad behavior. And so to Black women, they said, well, we're going to give you welfare, but actually, we'll give you more welfare. We'll give you more cash if you don't marry the father of your children. And they actually imagine a world where the government goes into your house to make sure no man is living there. That is what happened. That is what has been happening in Black America. Women get more checks if they don't marry the father of their children, and that led to father absence, of course. Talk about that denigration of the man. They wanted to make manhood obsolete because they knew that when children are not raised with fathers, every other ill follows. And so back then, the single motherhood rate in the Black community going into the 1960s was 23%. 23% of Black children were growing up without a father in the home. Today, that rate is closer to 75%. So when someone talks to you about, well, why are there so many Black men in prison? Why are Black people living below the poverty? It is because the government knew that removing strong family figures, removing the father from the home, right, that those children would still pursue maternity and paternity elsewhere. So you've got mom working multiple jobs, single mom working multiple jobs, not paying attention to the kid because she's so busy and stressed. Dad's not in their lives. Do you think the kid is just going to say, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to do what I have to do, raise myself well? Nope, they turn to the streets. Worse than the streets sometimes is the fact that they turn to culture. Suddenly, Jay-Z and Beyonce and whoever you can put into your headphones becomes mom and dad. And what are they telling you to do? This is how the government did it. It was brilliant, right? They destroyed Black America with the swoop of a pen, the Great Society Act. And now they've said, oh, that's successful. What about the rest of America? You saw this exact same idea, the welfarism happen during COVID. How many people didn't want to go back to work, even when they could, because the government was giving them checks? So you incentivize bad behavior. And what's the result? Businesses, the small businesses at least, start closing down because they can't get people to work. This is how nefarious and now how evil, but how well plotted our government is. This is what they have always been after. But the truth is, I remain so optimistic about where we're headed, right? People ask me, well, how do you do what you do every day? You just had a baby, 8 weeks ago, you're back on the road. It's because I know that we are winning because of how scared they are, right? How scared they are. One marker, censorship. When Obama was in office, they didn't need censorship, right? Because the people were deluded and they believed him. I was one of those people when he first went into office that believed him. I thought he was going to make the country better. They had such control over the narrative, it didn't matter. Now suddenly they're wiping presidents off of Twitter, right? They want fact checkers on the internet. They want to be able to lock accounts and pull them down. That's because they've lost control of the narrative, and people are beginning to wake up and recognize what is happening in this country. And so that is where the fight begins. I believe that we are headed toward a conservative economy. I believe that, and I know I'm going to take a couple of questions here. I only have time to take about 6. So if you want to, line up now if you're going to ask me a question. But that is exactly where we are headed. And I know that they will fight us tooth and nail, you guys. But if you believe, first and foremost, in faith, right? Believe in something bigger than government. Believe in God. The second thing to believe in with everything in you and to fight for are families. Fight for families. Start families. Do everything for your families. And I promise you, the result will be a freer individual, which leads to freer households, which leads to a freer America. God bless you guys so much, and thank you for having me. All right. Start with you.
Hello, I'm Isaiah. I just graduated high school. My question is, I plan on running for Congress in the future, and as a young conservative, what is some things that you would suggest for me to use in the future? What would you do if you were in my place?
Well, first off, congratulations. I think that's huge, and I think, are you running locally?
Yes, ma'am. I would start in the Texas House.
Yeah, the local elections matter so much, and people are constantly focused on D.C., but honestly, the local elections, and I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, even for the school boards, right? We need to start running for those positions. And what I would recommend is just to get your face out there. You know, people knock on doors, start making videos, start making social media videos. I mean, this event is a grassroots effort, which is insane. Get your name out there, network with the individuals that are in this room right now, because eventually they're going to be the ones that are voting for you.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a sophomore in high school, and I was wondering, how, as American conservatives, you talk about Black America, how can we help them to bring the family back together?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great question. I always say with Black America, the problem is that too many people keep trying to fix Black America, and Black America has to want to fix itself, right? It goes back to, even when you're talking about addictions, the first thing is admitting that you have a problem, right? And until Black America, within Black America, begins to have that great reckoning, there's actually nothing that people on the outside can do to help, because they've already tried. And I think that conservatives, Black or white, should not feel like it's incumbent upon them to transform people that don't want to change themselves. The only thing that you can do, and what I always say, is to not edit yourself, tell the truth. The truth is the truth. I think for too long, people have been scared, and that has given such a power to the left of being called a racist, a sexist, a misogynist, and so they bite their tongues. Stop biting your tongues. I've never bit mine, not even one time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Aurora Geddes, and I'm in 7th grade, and what do I do whenever transgenders or gay people ask me my Christian values, or what my values are?
You tell them the truth. You tell them the truth, 100%. And that goes back to how, what I just said to her is that conservatives have to be prepared to scream the truth louder than they can scream the lies. And there is nothing more satanic, in my opinion, than the transgender movement right now, attempting to tell children. Satan is the author of lies and deceptions, and if you're on the side of God, which we are, then you have to start screaming the truth. Okay, I'm gonna do 2 more after this, guys. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Casey.
1, 2.
I'm a sophomore at Sam Houston. The left has kind of convinced all of America that overturning Roe v. Wade was an attack on women. Can you explain why that was actually a win for women and not a loss?
Yeah, you can explain it too. Do you want to? I mean, I can explain it. It sounds like you know, and you just want people to know.
I would rather
Well, it's a win because women never got to vote on Roe v. Wade, and so if you believe that women should have a voice and decide what should happen, then it shouldn't have gone to the Supreme Court and as it was, been decided by a bunch of men. I mean, that is the truth. The history of Roe v. Wade is that men made a decision, and women never were allowed to vote on it. So if you believe that the majority of the women want abortion rights, you're about to find out. It's been sent back down to the states.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Sir.
Hello, my name is Joseph, and my ultimate dream is to become president someday. Where's like a good place to start out?
If you want to be well.
I look up to Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan, JFK.
Okay, well, I think the first place to start is to ask yourself why you want to be president, right? It sounds good on paper. Does it look good? Do you see what Trump's going through right now? All right. And I think that in heading toward any office position, it's good to examine and ask yourself why you want to be in office, right? If it's for ego, you shouldn't want it. I think that the problem in politics is that too many people want to go as a check mark, you know? It's just like, oh, well, I'm the president, so now everybody knows me and I'm cool and I get to fly in Air Force One, which sounds fun. I want to fly in Air Force One. But we would have a better country if people viewed it like going to war and viewed it as a sacrifice, because that's what it is. It's actually a sacrifice, you know? So I think the first thing that I would say to you is to identify the reasons why you want to run for president. And if those reasons are moral and wholesome, then you will begin to attract the constituents and the base that you want.
Well, thank you, Candace.
You are so welcome. Maybe I'll vote for you one day. Last but not least, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Levante Holt.
Levante.
So my question for you is, I'm not sure if you're aware of Jesse Lee Peterson, but he's recently been attacked by a couple of people saying that he might be homosexual. Are you afraid of the left coming after you in the same way or in a different way?
I'm definitely not a homosexual, so I don't have any, that does not keep me up at night, but go ahead, I'm just kidding.
Well, essentially, they're massing an army against him, and I was wondering if you were scared that they might mass an army against you. It may not be for homosexuality.
They have amassed every single army against me since the beginning of my career. And here's the truth. I'm having fun. It drives them crazy because I am a happy warrior, right?
Racism doesn't exist, baby. Let's get it.
That would be my final piece of advice to all of you. Rather than be frustrated, have fun, right? Because there is nothing that upsets them more than realizing that all the stones and sticks that they throw really do not harm us or hate us. I'm having way too much fun, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm just getting started. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, God bless Texas, amen? Well, I have something really important to share, and we've got so many good things in store for Texas Youth Summit. Are you with me? So, we have another event coming up on October 22nd in Weslaco, Texas, and it's going to be with Kayleigh McEnany, Congresswoman Mayra Flores, Monica de la Cruz, and some other great leaders, Cassie Garcia. So, more speakers to be announced. We want to continue to do these events, and not just here in Montgomery County, but we're going to do it in South Texas and other places. So here's my ask of you tonight. If you can support Texas Youth Summit in a big way, then please support us. There's little cards and there's a barcode up there. You can give any amount. You can scan that. You can give any amount, as well as there's little cards and there's envelopes where you can make a donation. So I want to encourage you to support what we're doing, because this is just the beginning. And we've had so much success and so much fun doing this event. But obviously it takes partners and supporters. So if you would, please support what we're doing. And I want to thank you guys so much for it. And there will be some ushers coming to pick up those envelopes at your seat. And so you can pay by card, you can pay by check, you can give which way you want to. You can pay with your phone with the barcode on the screen. So thank you guys. God bless you. God bless Texas. Look forward to talking more with you when we have our next speaker. Thank you. I need to introduce Marjorie Taylor Greene. Well, I want to tell all of you young ladies, maybe you're not a CrossFit athlete that can beat all the boys or shoot the biggest guns, but I hope that you are all as fierce as Marjorie Taylor Greene, a fighter for this country. She's someone that you should aspire to be like. She's done incredible things while she's in Congress. She's standing up to the Democrats and the establishment alike in both parties. She is a fierce fighter. She supports President Trump, and she's got an incredible resume. Without further ado, give it up for Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, this looks like a good way to spend a Friday night. No, this is a perfect way to spend a Friday night because we have a lot to talk about, right? I mean, there are a lot of things going on. So I was putting together my notes and thinking about what do I want to talk about at the Texas Youth Summit. And then I thought, I really should explain to everyone here what Congress is like. I'm new to Congress. It feels like I've been there for about maybe 40 or 50 years, just like Nancy Pelosi. But I haven't. I mean, it's not even been 2 years. I'm a freshman member of Congress. And I'd never served in government before, never was elected, never held any kind of position. As a matter of fact, I was pretty happy living my great, perfect American life that, you know what? You can only live in the United States of America. But I got sick and tired of leaders in Washington trying to ruin everything. So I ran for Congress, and now I'm a member of Congress. And I was thinking, okay, how can I explain what Congress is like? I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys it's a lot like high school. It really is. I mean, you know how in school you've got that person in your class and they sit close to you and then they quietly pass gas and you're like, is that same kid? And they never own it or apologize or anything. Well, that happens in Congress too, because Jerry Nadler, you know Jerry Nadler, right? He likes to come over and sit kind of in our area, and he does the same thing. And it's really gross, and I'm like, gosh, Jerry Nadler. Horrible. Policies are bad, everything else. So it's a lot like high school. And then, you know how you have to stay up late at night in college and you're cramming for a test and you're studying and you're trying to get ready and prepared for your test or your exam or a report or writing a paper. And so you're up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, guess what? Nancy Pelosi will keep us in the House chamber voting sometimes until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. We never start the day early like most people when you go to work or school, at normal times, like maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. No, that never happens. And I couldn't figure out why. And I'm like, well, maybe it's just because they're kind of night creatures, like witches and vampires and ghouls. Okay. They kind of are. And you can see the results. Everything's falling apart. Okay, so all jokes aside, I do want to talk to you all about some things that you need to know. Really important things you need to know. Number one, everything you put on your phone in regards to photos, text, emails, social media, it never goes away. No matter how many times you delete it and you think you permanently delete it, it never goes away. It's permanent. And I think you all need to know that, and you need to tell your friends. It never goes away. And the Democrats want nothing more than to be able to rate you and score you for the rest of your life based on what you do on social media, based on the things you like, based on the things you search, based on pictures you take, based on locations you go to in your maps, based on places you check in, based on people you follow, pages you follow, and things that you're interested in. You see, right now there's a scoring system called ESG, Environmental Social Governance. And they're putting this on companies, but it's also going to affect the way you're going to be hired in the future. You want to know why? Because they're tracking you. They're tracking you, every single one of you. And so one day when you're finished with school and you've got your resume and it looks amazing and you've lined up all these job interviews, the big company that you've been most excited about is going to be able to pull a report on you, and they will score you based on your political beliefs, your religion, and what you have done in the world of the internet. How about that? That's pretty bad. It's not supposed to be that way. When you get hired for a job, and I'm a business owner, that's really what I've done most of my adult life, other than being a mom of 3 amazing kids. But being a business owner, I've always hired people based on their ability to do the job that I'm hiring them to do. That's usually what I'm hiring by. I'm not hiring by their social opinions or political opinions or religious beliefs, because that doesn't make sense. But that's how the Democrats want to rate you. So number one, I want you to know that it's always permanent. Be very careful about any pictures you send, anything you say about someone. It never goes away. It's very important for you to know that. And if you're on TikTok, which is my kids' favorite app, they love it, China is tracking you and has all of your information. That's another thing that you really need to know. And we don't want that happening. We don't want China to have your information. We don't want them to be able to follow you. So I thought that was important for you to know. Okay, here's something else I want you guys to understand. When you decide where you're going to go to college or where you're going to go to school, guess what? You don't have to go to college to succeed. I know that's the opposite bit of advice or information that you're told. There are amazing trade schools, you guys. Seriously. Now, I went to college. I graduated from the University of Georgia with a marketing degree. I have kids in college. My kids' ages are 19, 22, 24. They've gone to college, but a lot of their friends and a lot of other people I know chose not to go to college. And guess what? One of the most successful people I have known my entire life, my father, never graduated from college. Here, I'll give you an example of things you can do if you're not going to college. We have an amazing trade school in my district. It's in Dade County in Georgia. It's called the Southeastern Lineman School. I almost don't want to tell you about it because it's so good. This is where mostly young men, and I'm not talking about your soy boys, and I'm not talking about the boys that can't figure out what gender they are. I'm talking about real men, young men, usually around 18, 19. They sign up for school, and they have a 9-week program. They have a 16-week program. And by the time they're done, they've only spent around $20,000 for their education there. over 9 weeks or 16 weeks, whichever one they choose. And when they finish, they are a certified electrician, they are a certified lineman, and they are a certified commercial truck driver with their CDL. And guess what? Every one of them that graduates has multiple job offers ranging from $65,000 to $90,000, and many of them leave and make 6 figures the first year they're finished. It's incredible. Now, these are the guys that do all kinds of things, like they show up at storms and they put your power lines back up. These are people that provide us with electricity when everything's gone dark. And no, I'm not talking about the Green New Deal. They don't deal with that. They actually put up power lines. But these are the kinds of jobs that are out there and they're needed. This is one of the most needed jobs is linemen. We also need commercial truck drivers. You know what else is great about these jobs? You don't have to wear a suit and tie when you go to work. It's real. So there's a lot of other opportunities out there where you're not going to go to college, you're not going to get treated bad by your professor simply because you're a Christian or conservative, or you wear one of those, horrible MAGA Republican cult hats that I love. I've got a whole collection of those. But no, there's so many opportunities for you, and you don't have to go in student loan debt where the Democrats feel sorry for you and they wanted to just, forgive all your debt. Now, something else I want to talk to you about is the Green New Deal. Talk about one of my colleagues, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC. Have you heard of her? Oh, come on now. I know there's a bunch of girls in here that probably watched her makeup tutorials. I mean, these are really important things for members of Congress, teaching you how to put your makeup on. But those are the things she takes seriously. But she did, she did achieve one thing. She managed to write a 14-page piece of legislation. 14 pages is a lot for her, okay? And she introduced it, and it's called the Green New Deal. And the Green New Deal is quite something. You should, if you're bored or you just want a good laugh, you should read it. It's only 14 pages. Okay, so let's talk about what are the results of the Green New Deal. Well, it's every catastrophe that we're starting to experience. Now, I want to tell you about some things that are going on. They want every single one of you by 2035 to be driving an electric vehicle. You have to have an electric vehicle, according to them, because they hate any kind of combustion engine. They don't want you to have a car or truck that has gas or diesel. You have to have an electric vehicle. It's just so important because they believe that we have to bring carbon down to net zero, and that's just the ultimate goal because it really makes all their friends and family rich because they're into climate scams. Thank you, John Kerry, for that. But here's something interesting. So Air Canada, get this, has ordered 30 electric airplanes. Yeah, electric airplanes. How about that? Electric airplanes. So, I mean, it shouldn't surprise you. Look who's the president of, Justin Trudeau, right? So we were joking around and we were talking, how is there an electric airplane and what does that look like? So we were just making fun and thinking about, remember back a long time ago and you've seen movies where people in those slave ships and they're down there and they're rowing and they're being whipped to row? We're saying, how are they going to keep powering these electric airplanes? What are they going to have? It's like a spin class in a tube where they've got everybody riding spin cycles and then those mean, nasty airline stewardess that force you to wear masks all the time on the planes back when we were forced to wear masks. Are they going to be forcing you to, keep spinning to keep the airplane in the air? It's absurd. But, remember, carbon is the most dangerous thing to the left. They think it's killing everyone. When in reality, guess what carbon has done? Carbonization has made the earth more green in modern day history than it has been in a very long time. You know what the result of the earth being more green means? It means we're able to grow more food. It means farmers can grow more food for a growing population on the planet. Imagine that. Now, the left doesn't want to grow in population. You want to know why? They would really rather kill babies in the womb. Yeah. They want to reduce the population of the planet. Bill Gates wants you guys to eat bugs. Seriously, Beyond Meat burgers. Like, who wants a Beyond Meat burger? I want a really juicy, big, fat cheeseburger with real meat. And I don't want to fly in an electric airplane from Justin Trudeau in Canada. I just don't. I want a very big, capable airplane. Yeah, that's super important to me. I'm sure it is to you. Now, let's talk about some other things that happen with the Green New Deal. I mean, this is going to be a future we're looking at where many bird species begin to go extinct. You want to know why? Because of all the wind turbines that are being littered across America. You guys have plenty of them here in Texas. That didn't work out so well in the last ice storm, did it? No. And wind turbines, you know, remember how all these people, they love the earth and they love animals? Well, we all love the earth and we love animals. But if you love animals and you care about God's creation, you certainly don't want all these birds being killed with these giant wind turbines spinning around. And if you love people, then you certainly love the ability to have plenty of electricity, because guess what? When you have rolling blackouts like they're having in California right now, that affects everything. That affects your ability to have air conditioning when it's hot. It affects your ability to have heat when it's cold. It affects your ability to have refrigerated food. And I know I love ice cream, and if my freezer turns off because of some stupid blackout that Joe Biden and AOC has caused, I'm going to be really upset. And I can't believe Nancy Pelosi allows anybody to get away with that. She loves Dove ice cream bars. So I feel like there's one thing she and I could be on the same page about. We love electricity. I'm from Georgia. Y'all are from Texas. We love air conditioning, don't we? We do. And I like modern conveniences. I like a washer and a dryer. I don't want to hang up my clothes on the clothesline. I may be a little spoiled, but I just would prefer to be able to dry my clothes. There's so many things about electricity we should all love, and we want the ability to have it. So why do we want to adopt a plan that is going to send us backwards into darkness? Is this the future that you all want? No, absolutely not. Now think about this. John Kerry, who's really way too old for any of you to know who he is. Am I right, adults in the room? I mean, we barely know who he is. He was over lecturing Africa just recently, telling them about how they need to adopt green energy and electric vehicle batteries. And in Africa is where they have child slave labor, where these poor kids are having to mine lithium out of these rare earth mineral mines. Causes cancer, birth defects, and all kinds of things. But it's okay for John Kerry to lecture them that that's what they need to be doing. This is how disconnected these people are. These are the same people that live up on Martha's Vineyard, where DeSantis sent 50, yeah. What? Stop. How can y'all cheer for this human crisis that happened on Martha's Vineyard? What is wrong with you sadistic people? DeSantis sends 50 illegal aliens, I'm not calling them migrants, to Martha's Vineyard, and these people flip out. They flip out. All of a sudden, they're the loving left, and then everyone is welcome, and they're like, bring everyone in, and they claim that they're great, and they actually show up in their town, and within 48 hours or less than that, they send these people out to a military base. But I'm sitting here going, why are they on the military base? Why are we paying for that? Let me tell you what we should be doing, everyone. Governors of states like Texas, Florida, any state in the United States of America should be able to deport illegal aliens out of the country. No, but seriously, this is it. We have a president, Joe Biden, who is completely failing to uphold the laws. We all have to obey the rules, right? Well, not Joe Biden. I don't even know if he knows it. Seriously, President Butterbeans does not know what the laws are of the land. So he seriously is allowing an illegal invasion, and you all put up with it far more than I do in Georgia. We just have some of them. You're getting a full country, every country on the planet flowing in every single day. So I introduced articles of impeachment on Joe Biden for that. He should be impeached. But that's not the only one. I introduced articles of impeachment on Joe Biden also for another reason. Because he and his son, Hunter Biden, are so corrupt. They use Joe Biden's position of power to do all kinds of business in countries like China and Ukraine, where billions and billions and billions of your tax dollars are being sent to defend a border that is not our own. By the way, I voted no on every single one of those bills. Well, I also announced on Tucker Carlson tonight, I know you guys were in here watching Candace Owens and a bunch of other great people, that I'm introducing another set of articles of impeachment on Joe Biden on Monday. This one's going to happen Monday. Yeah. Here's why. Because he is selling our strategic petroleum reserves. Do you all know what that is? Okay. Well, that's where we store millions and millions of barrels of oil. And it's for our national security. Because get this, in America, we use about 19 million barrels of oil per day. That's how much we use. We like it. It's great. Here's what else oil is used for. Oil, petroleum, is used to make over 6,000 products that we use every single day. Oil is really important. Joe Biden has been selling 1 million barrels of oil every single day out of our strategic petroleum reserves for almost 6 months now. We are down to 434 million barrels of oil. That sounds like a lot, but let me put it in terms you can understand. We use around 19 million barrels of oil per day. If you divide 434 by 19, we come down to roughly about 21 days of strategic petroleum reserves. Do you understand that? That means we have an emergency supply of 21 days. Now think in your mind what could happen in 3 weeks if we run out of oil. Seriously, what happens to America if all of a sudden all of our oil production stops, and we know the Democrats want to do that, and we only have 21 days left of oil? That's what Joe Biden is doing to us. And it's even more insulting. Listen to this. You know how you have somebody you really don't like, and you're like, I don't want my country helping them? Well, China doesn't like America very much. They pretend to be our friend, but they actually want to defeat us in 2 ways. They want to defeat us militarily, and they want to defeat us economically. And they're not very nice to their people in their country. Joe Biden has been selling millions of barrels of oil to China. Not just China, many other countries around the world. And they're very secretive about it. Guess what? You can't really find out where it's all going. You can't find out. They're not being transparent. Just like the Department of Justice and the FBI when they go raid Mar-a-Lago. Something about the Biden administration and the Democrats, not very transparent. So this is why we need to impeach Joe Biden. We have to impeach Joe Biden. It's imperative. Now, there's one more thing I want to talk to you guys about, and this is really important. One of the craziest things that has happened to me, and it's shocking since I've been in Congress, is I found out there's something controversial. The fact that I believe there's only 2 genders, male and female. Yeah, that's apparently against the law in Washington, D.C. It's so outrageous to them that my colleague across the hall, Maria, her name is Newman. I call her Maria New Person because she gets offended with pronouns and all that stuff. She has a biological son who she calls her daughter, who's an adult, and she got pretty mad at me because I was fighting with her on the Equality Act, saying, no, we're not going to abort babies up till birth. We're not putting men in the girls' bathrooms and the sports. And we were having this little argument, so she planted a trans flag out in front of her office, which is directly across from mine. And she made a video of it starting on my nameplate next to my door, and then she planted her flag like she was declaring war against me. And then she did her hands like that, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Usually when I meet my neighbors, this was how I met her, we do things like bring each other a plate of cookies, something like that. So I responded to her and put a sign up on the wall that said, there are only two genders, male and female, trust the science, because they're the party of science, supposedly. I mean, Dr. Fauci's like Dr. Frankenstein. He creates viruses that kill people. So they love science, right? Well, anyways, it's been a big fight, and my sign has been attacked. It's been ripped down. It's been stolen. It's been vandalized. Capitol Police even arrested a Democrat chief of staff for doing this. Department of Justice is not going to prosecute him, just like they're not prosecuting the person that called and had my house swatted 4 times in 1 week just a few weeks ago. But don't worry, the Department of Justice is handling the investigation, so I'm safe, right? But back to male and female gender, all of you are living in an age where the truth is being completely destroyed. They are trying to tell all of you and your generation that you can change your gender. And I'm going to tell you right now, you cannot, none of you, no one can change their gender, and here's why. God made you. He formed you. He knew you before you were even born. He had plans for you. He has plans for you. He loves you, and he knows everything he wants for you in your life. He loves you more than anyone will ever love you, like anything you've ever known. And God only made 2 genders. He made us in his image. Male and female, he made us in his image. But there is a horrific thing happening. It is medical experimentation, and they're doing it on kids. And they're doing it on children all over the country, and the numbers are staggering. They're telling kids that you can, if you don't feel like you're a girl or feel like you're a boy, and as a matter of fact, they're brainwashing them. And it's happening by sick and disgusting, evil, perverted, child-abusing school teachers. And they want you all to believe this, and it is a lie. It is a foundational lie. You can't change your gender. And here's what they're doing to kids, and this is awful to talk about. They are performing mastectomies. That is literally cutting off girls' breasts when they're teenagers. They are performing hysterectomies. That is removing a girl, a teenage girl or younger, ability to have a baby. Totally takes away her uterus, cannot have a baby. They are castrating teenage boys, I know that's hard to understand, in horrific ways, and changing the way they're shaped down there. It's genital mutilation, and it leads to lifelong medical issues. And I'll explain it like this, and this is really gross. But these young boys that end up doing this surgery, they end up having to wear adult diapers the rest of their life because they leak urine, okay? These are real things. No one will tell you this, but I will tell it to you. This is what they're doing to kids, and they call it gender-affirming care. If you hear that term, gender-affirming care, no. This is like what you think about when you're a young child and you lay in bed, you think there's a monster under your bed or there's a monster in your closet. These doctors, nurses, psychologists, they are those kind of monsters. They are evil. And it's so dangerous. Right now, the numbers are this high. 1 in 10 children think they are trans. 1 in 10, that's 10%. It was never like that just a few years ago. It is an ideology that is being pushed on kids. You all have a responsibility. I'm going to tell you guys something. You all have a responsibility to tell your generation, your friends, everyone you know, it is a lie. You cannot change your gender. This is not about sexuality. This is a lie, and we have to stop it. And I'm so serious about stopping it. I introduced a bill just a few weeks ago called the Protect Children's Innocence Act, because no one under the age of 18 who cannot vote yet, who cannot get a tattoo, who cannot buy tobacco, who can't see an R-rated movie because they're not 17, who cannot join the military, who can't even drive a car or get a driver's license, and so many other adult decisions should ever be making a decision to have body parts cut off of them. So we want to put those monsters in jail. That's what needs to happen. We do. We need to put those monsters in jail. Now, I want to wrap up with this. Here's what I'm going to tell you guys, and I tell my kids this. Like I said, my kids are 19, 22, and 24, and I'm very honest with them, just like I've been honest with you. I know some people may have been uncomfortable with the things I've said, but I'm going to tell you the truth because I believe you deserve to know it. Here's what you need to know. My generation, and I'm 48 years old, so I know I look like I'm 28, guys. I know. But no, my generation and my parents' generation have failed you all in many ways. Here's why. We're a nation of over $30 trillion in debt. That means the people in charge who are my age and older, and some of them are like 150 years old in Congress. Do you know there's people in Congress that have been elected, serving for as long as I've been alive? Like, that's no joke. I think it's crazy. They really need to retire. But here's what's happening. Our generations have failed you all. You should not be living in a country looking towards a future in a nation in decline, a nation that is going under, a nation with over $30 trillion in debt, a country with wide open borders where anyone and everyone is coming in, crime that's going out of control in cities like it never should, a decline in our moral, our fabric, a complete decay of our moral character and fabric, moving towards things that are so evil, where I just told you about what they're doing to kids, and that's unthinkable. But it's my generation and our parents' generation's fault. You want to know why? Everybody screwed up. Everyone was too busy kicking the can down the road and saying, we'll solve this problem later. We'll just keep raising the debt ceiling. Oh, we can keep spending money on that. Rules don't apply. They can show whatever they want on movies and TV, say whatever they want. Gender doesn't matter. Male and female doesn't matter. God doesn't matter. Remove God from school. Remove prayer from school. Persecute Christians. Yeah. Do you know what the left says now? Now they're calling us MAGA Christians. MAGA Christians. Make America great again, Christians. MAGA Republicans. Joe Biden says, if you believe in that, you're an extremist. And he has declared all of us the enemies of the state. That's where we are. Here's what all of you need to know. None of that is true. None of that is true about you. As a matter of fact, if you believe in God, if you are someone that loves this country, if you are someone that looks for a good future and life ahead, you're not an extremist. That makes you a hopeful, good American, right? So here's your job. Pretty soon, if you're not already old enough to vote, which maybe some of you are not, but I know a lot of you are in this room, you have to vote. It is imperative. It is your job to vote. But you have to educate yourself about who you're voting for. You need to make sure you're picking the right leaders because it affects your future. People like me, we put bills into place, we vote, and they become law. And it's very important. Secondly, never, ever allow anyone or the culture in this country to put duct tape over your mouth and tell you you can't tell the truth. Your freedom of speech. Your freedom of speech is one of the most important things you have. Number 2, never give up our Second Amendment rights. Never. Our Second Amendment protects the First, and that is the truth. Now, lastly, I'm going to finish with this. You guys need to make sure that you focus on staying true to yourself. That was something that one of my kids told me to tell you guys. Tell them, Mom, to stay true to themselves. That means don't buy into what is popular right now. Don't give up your values for a certain group of friends. Don't join something because you're bored on a Friday or Saturday night and you just wanted someone to hang out with. And never, ever, ever do anything that you know if it was on a giant movie screen and it was going to be shown to every single person you know, and especially one day when you meet God, if you watch that movie, if you're going to be ashamed of it, don't do it. Just don't. Stay true to yourself, because here's why. There's only one of you, just one. And you are so precious, and you are so important. You're important to our God, the creator of everything we know, and our Savior. So stay true to yourself. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that was just wonderful. Can we give her another round of applause? She is someone I really look up to myself, and that was just so amazing. Well, next up, we're going to be having Michael Seifert. He is the CEO and the founder of Public Square. And so he is very passionate about helping patriots vote with their wallet, and after just 9 weeks, he's created the largest network of patriotic businesses the nation has ever seen. So I asked him, and I showed him this whenever I was about to come up here, just showing him what I was going to say about him. And I said, is there anything else you would like me to say? And he said, he's from San Diego, California, so to pray for him. If everybody can give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Thanks for the prayer. How's it going? Good to see you all. I would love your prayer. That'd be very helpful. I do live behind enemy lines in arguably the bluest state in the Union. California is quite a place. But I will tell you this. We have more conservatives and registered Republicans than any state in the country besides Texas, which is pretty amazing. It always surprises people. There are a lot of us. We are just outnumbered. Our state is 40 million people. We are trying to fight the good fight, because here's a harsh reality that people often do not want to accept. So goes California, so goes the nation. So if you want to see where the nation will be in 10 years, look at California today, unless the good people of this country stand up and say, we want nothing to do with the policies of California, and we want to pave a completely different future. I am very glad to be speaking with you all tonight. It's amazing to hear people that I really look up to and have admired in this movement for a long time share their heart for the future of our country. I am going to start with a little bit of bad news before I get there, though, and I'll end on good news, I promise, lots of it. Before I get to the bad news, my name is Michael Seifert. I am from San Diego. I started a company called Public Square. You can find out more about us at publicsq.com. We're the largest network of patriotic businesses the nation has ever seen, so that you can vote with your dollar and stop funding your opposition. It's awesome. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. Thank you. But bad news. The left loves to infiltrate. It's their mode of operation. They never create. They never innovate. They don't do anything creative. Nothing is their own design. They take things that are pure and they distort them. They take things that were birthed out of American ingenuity and innovation and out of a pure spirit of wanting our country to succeed, and then they tear them down. That's where they find joy. They do this in our political space. They do this in the world of education. They do this in the judicial arena. And one area that I'm very passionate about that they have sought to distort and pervert is the marketplace. Woke corporatism has thwarted your life in far more ways than you even realize. Because the left a few decades ago realized I can actually sway the nation to accept my political beliefs if I will go after the corporate boardrooms. I'll sit our DEI advisors. If you're not familiar with DEI means, it's diversity, equity, inclusion. And this is not good diversity. It's not ideological diversity. It's not diversity of ethnicity where everyone's treated equally. It is affirmative action. You don't have enough black people on your board. You don't have enough trans people on your board. You don't have enough X, Y, and Z on your board. So we have to enforce this from a governmental level. Those are the people that are sitting in corporate boardrooms today deciding the policies for companies that you know and love and use every single day. Examples, Starbucks. First of all, they burn their coffee and it's gross. So, I'm encouraging you to get away from Starbucks anyways. Amen. Yeah. But a few decades ago, they realized if we can go after the most loved and adored coffee brand in the United States and we can use the corporate profits to fund abortion, the American people will take it hook, line, and sinker. A few years ago, my wife was directing a pregnancy resource center, the largest clinic in Orange County, fighting for the lives of the unborn and the women that carry them. And I'll never forget, one day she called me when she was leaving work, and she said, Michael, did you see what Starbucks did? I said, no. What now? She said, they decided to match employee contributions to Planned Parenthood on an entirely corporate level. Meaning, from top to bottom, not only was Starbucks donating to abortion, the killing of the next generation, they were incentivizing their staff to do it too, like a 401k match. To take it farther, Seventh Generation, the largest household cleaning products company in the country. You probably have many products of theirs in your house. Last year, it came out and said, we are committed to defunding the police. There's a local cafe in San Diego County that has about 9 locations, and after the George Floyd riots in the Summer of Love of 2020, this cafe came out and said that they will not serve any police officers. So you had these 7 locations around San Diego County where police officers were not even allowed a foot in the door. Companies weaponizing their progressive values against the American people. Big banks like Bank of America and Chase literally canceling the accounts of people that disagree with them. Our company, when we got started, Chase called us. We had over $1 million in our checking account. We were a valued partner of theirs, so we thought. And we did a lot of research and found that Chase, for our type of account for getting started, was maybe better than the other ones. They called us within a month. We didn't even have all of our assets there, so we were trying to already get ready for the event that they could end up canceling us, but we thought, well, that's crazy. Nobody even knows who we are yet. They call us and said, hey, we're a little concerned about your conservative political views, and if you're not careful, this couldn't end well. Chase. Take matters further. Postmates, if you're familiar with Postmates, largest kind of competitor to Grubhub. Postmates, in June of this year, during Pride Month, came out and issued an entirely grotesque, and there's young ears in here, so I'm going to be careful at how I say this. For the city of Los Angeles, city of San Francisco, city of Boston, they released a menu item of all the restaurants in LA, Boston, and San Francisco that were going to be very pleasant on your tummy for your interactions with the same gender, if that makes sense. And they blasted this. That was their publicity. They were helping homosexual people engage in actions together. These are what these companies are doing now. So what ends up happening is that even though I may be so well-meaning and I have the best intentions, when I shop at Starbucks, I am funding that type of attitude. Enough of the bad news. Can I tell you some good news? Come on. All right. Here's the good news. It was 2014. I was driving in St. Louis, Missouri, visiting some friends of mine, and it was Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. I drive by a Chick-fil-A, and the Chick-fil-A had a 2-hour line out the door. I was mesmerized. And I actually knew the owner of this Chick-fil-A. I know that he was an adamant conservative. He loved his country, loved his God, loved the Constitution and the values that it protects. He had a 2-hour line out of his door, and I was so confused. So I pulled over into the parking lot, and I Googled, what is going on at Chick-fil-A today? Turns out it was National Protest Chick-fil-A Day. Here's the good news. The 2-hour line, those were not protesters. Those were consumers. There were like 5 protesters holding these stupid signs like this. And there was a line 2 hours out the door of people that said, I'm going to take time out of work to go celebrate this man in this Chick-fil-A because he stood for me when it matters most. Let me tell you another story. Goya Foods. Y'all ever heard of Goya? Come on. Goya is amazing. CEO is a patriot. Largest Latin American food provider in the United States. He came out in 2020 and said, my vote is to President Donald J. Trump. It was amazing. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who Representative Greene just mentioned, right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, representative from New York, actually came out and said, you know what, we should boycott Goya. And all of her leftist friends on the Instagram Lives watching her makeup tutorials said, yeah, we should. Here's the good news. Goya had the most successful month of business they have ever had. So much so to the point where the CEO of Goya came out and said, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you have won Employee of the Month. He said, anytime you would like to initiate a boycott against my company, you're more than willing to do so. We'll even put your little picture on the hallway here and let you know how much we appreciate it. You blew up our business. Another good example, there's a coffee shop in my local town that took an adamant stand against the COVID nonsense. And if you know anything of what happened in California, you know that I had it bad. I know what it feels like to walk into an establishment and they look at me in the eyes and say, sir, your vaccine status? I said, I'm unvaccinated, proudly. And they said, sorry, you're not welcome here. Turn around and leave, wild stuff. But there was this coffee shop that said, you know what? The values and the rights that were given by our Creator are too important to infringe upon. So no matter what a tyrannical government says to my establishment, I will not close down and I will not infringe upon the rights that were ordained and endowed by a Creator. Government did not give me my rights, so they cannot take them away. What he decided to do, yeah, amen. What this coffee shop owner decided to do, Coffee Co. in Escondido, California, he said, you know what, I'm never closing. I'm going to stay open. He had people drive 2.5 hours away to visit him regularly. In fact, he had a gentleman fly all the way from Sweden to San Diego, California, because he saw him on Instagram. It was amazing. And he said, sir, I just want to let you know from the other side of the world, I'm with you. It was amazing. He faced lots of hate, but he stood strong. So here's the good news. There is a movement of us. Sometimes it can feel like we're the minority, but we're not. There are so many of us, proud patriots that love their country, love the Constitution, believe in the rights endowed to every single person in the public square. Now it's time we just got to mobilize together, build a movement so strong that no matter what the left and their corporate woke boardrooms decide to do, we continue to persevere. And so what we did out of San Diego, California, driven by an urge to see this change, is we made a solution. Can I tell you about the solution? Come on. So we said, what if we could create a platform where all the people on it had a similar desire for the liberties that have made our country so special in the first place? What if the platform was free, and then what if on that platform were all the businesses that love the country, love the values that they hold dear, stand for liberty? What if we actually gave these consumers access to all of those businesses for free for the business and free for the user? Like, what could change about our local community? Because, by the way, it does start there. If you want to change your country, you got to change your state. If you want to change your state, you got to change your county. You want to change your county, you got to change your city. You want to change your city, you got to change your backyard. It all starts with you. And so I had this list on a piece of paper. My wife and I were escaping to the free state of Florida for a much-needed vacation. Praise God for Florida. And we were sitting there in a cafe, and we had this yellow sheet of paper with all the businesses in our local area back home that we knew took a stand for us when it mattered the most. And we said, what if we gave everyone their list? What if every single patriot in the United States knew where they could go for their food, their household cleaning supplies, their banks, their financial institutions, their home lending, their plumbers, their electricians, and they knew with a blessed assurance that these businesses were going to stand up for the rights that they believe are theirs as American citizens? What if we could create this and give this list to every single person? What would change? How would the power structures of society move back toward we the people when we the people stand up and vote with our wallet? This was the dream. It was amazing. And so literally that was January of 2021. In February, I got together with some friends and pitched it to them. In March, realized that we may be onto something special. In April, put together a product roadmap. In May, started writing the first lines of code. In September, we launched our first iteration of the app in San Diego County for our local community. In November, we spread out to all of California. We had national news headlines on this. And as of 9 weeks ago, we are now in all 50 states with a social platform called Public Square. You can find it at publicsq.com. And we are the largest network of patriotic, freedom-loving, 27,000-plus businesses. Millions of consumer hits a month, and it's all free. So guess what? Now, I bank with patriots. These pants, made by patriots. This shirt, made by patriots. My plumber, he's a patriot. My coffee, made by patriots. Here's the reality. Sometimes we can look at the daunting environment ahead of us and we see the Apples of the world and the Amazons of the world and we believe, what even is the point? This is too much. The reality is we're not going to win with that attitude. My goal is to win. I want to take this country back because I believe that everything is on the line here. And the only way we do that is if we go baby step by baby step. Don't go to Starbucks tomorrow. Go to one of these. Maybe we try to move this purchase over here in alignment with the values. And what you'll find is that before you know it, you've actually moved for your life to be built on the platform of your values. You're changing the local community and your society as a whole with the power of your wallet. And the power structures of society are moving back towards we the people because of it. It's amazing. And it's possible. So I'm really honored to be talking with you all this evening. I have a lot of hope for our country. I really am. I'm so incredibly hopeful. My wife and I are expecting our first child in 6 weeks. Thank you. And honestly, for the first time in a long time, I'm not worried about our future. Because as I've been exposed to amazing patriots like you, I get to see faces of people that feel what we feel and know what's at stake. Parents, if you're wondering whether or not you should really engage and move your life over to the platform of your values and really live out your values, Thomas Paine said that if there may be a battle that come, let it happen in my day so that my children may know peace. If you don't fight now, our kids are going to have to deal with the effects of it. Youth, you're amazing and stronger than culture gives you credit for. Culture says that you should really just focus on getting your life together when you're around 30. It's not true. The framers of the Constitution, the founders of this great union were your age. They were your age. No matter where we are in life, you each have the power to step up and change our communities for the better. And sometimes it's literally as simple as starting with $1. Sound good? Awesome. Well, friends, you can find out more about us at publicsq.com. I'm very grateful for Christian Collins and the Texas Youth Summit for hosting us. We've got a booth right out front, too, so if you'd like to visit us anytime over the next 24 hours, we'll be there. Cannot thank you enough. You guys have a great rest of the night. Appreciate it.
Well, howdy. We got some spots, so any of you that are standing, if you want to take a seat, come and enjoy. Well, our final speaker tonight is U.S. Senator Ted Cruz. A patriot and the greatest U.S. Senator our state has ever had. I love the Cruz family, and I don't know if you've ever gotten to meet his dad, Rafael Cruz, but I was so blessed to get to travel the country with Rafael Cruz, and they're just a lot alike. They love this country, and everything that Rafael has, it's in Ted. He loves God, he loves America, and he's going to do everything to fight for this country. So get on your feet and welcome Ted Cruz. God bless you.
People are fed up with politicians who don't listen to them, fed up with a corrupt system that benefits the elites instead of working men and women. God bless Texas. And God bless the poor, beleaguered, impoverished citizens of Martha's Vineyard. It is incredible to be with you. I'm here tonight to give you a word of encouragement, to give you a word of hope. I've got two very simple points.
The first one is America is in crisis. What's happening right now, this isn't normal. We have a president of the United States who shakes hands with the empty air. We have a president who talks to the Easter Bunny. And I gotta say, under Joe Biden, everything, and I mean everything, has gone wrong. In some ways, it's actually kind of amazing to mess every single policy up. I mean, you think if they rolled the dice, something they'd get right. But you got inflation skyrocketing, cost of everything going up, cost of food going up, cost of rent going up, cost of lumber, cost of homes, cost of electricity, cost of health care, cost of gasoline. It's so bad, Antifa can't afford bricks. It's so bad, Eric Swalwell can't afford Chinese dinners. It is so bad that AOC can't afford fake handcuffs. Then we have crime rates skyrocketing, murder rates through the roof, carjacking through the roof, chaos in American cities across the country. We have illegal immigration, the worst rate of illegal immigration in 62 years. And as bad as the economic and domestic policy is, the foreign policy is even worse. Joe Biden surrendered and abandoned Afghanistan, surrendered to the Taliban, left Americans behind. 13 servicemen murdered. And every region of the world has gotten more dangerous. Every enemy of America today is stronger than they were 2 years ago. Now, some of y'all might be thinking, Ted, you said you were going to encourage us. You really suck at this. But I told you I had 2 points. So here's my second one. Revival is coming. And I believe that with all of my heart. All across Texas, all across America, people are waking up. Their eyes are opening up. They're watching what's happening. And they realize this doesn't make any sense. Look, I think it's amazing to be here with so many young people. So many young people that y'all are in schools, and many of you are surrounded by those of you who are in university, often professors, who are nuts. You've got classmates of yours sometimes who are nuts. But you know what? People see that. Your classmates are smarter than they let on. All right, think for a minute about COVID. The ridiculous rules we had during COVID. Remember the rules at a restaurant? When you walk in a restaurant, you must wear a mask because of science. Until you sit down. And then take your mask off. It is all safe. It is wonderful. Again, because of science. And actually, I've got a theory on this, which is the COVID virus reacts to altitude. At 6 feet, it is utterly deadly. At 3 feet, it is harmless and a tonic to the bones. By the way, that's why Fauci is safe. He's only 5 feet tall. the rules on an airplane? You get on an airplane, you must wear your mask, or else everyone's going to die. Unless you have a peanut. And one little peanut in your hand, take your mask off, you can laugh, you can spit in the air and gargle. It's all safe and wonderful. If you put the peanut down, oh my goodness, you're a mass murderer. What's wrong with you? Unless you have a Diet Coke. And again, I got a theory. Peanuts cure COVID. And look, right now, I know we've got some reporter in the back who's writing down, there he goes, spreading misinformation. He said peanuts cure COVID. No, what I said is this was all garbage. Everyone knew it was garbage, and it was idiocy from day one. And people are seeing that. People get that. And it helps that leftists are idiots. All right, am I the only person today that has enjoyed the antics in Martha's Vineyard? All right, so a year ago, I introduced legislation in the Senate that said we should send illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard and to Nantucket and to Cupertino, California, where Apple's headquartered, and to Napa Valley, California, and to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, essentially everywhere rich Democrats sit and sip Chardonnay. And at the time I introduced the legislation, I went out and called for it, said we need to send them there. The county executive in Martha's Vineyard actually responded to me. He got angry. And he said, we would welcome them here in Martha's Vineyard. He said, and I quote, we want Martha's Vineyard to be a haven for these immigrants. And he went on to say, Cruz has no idea what he's talking about. This is not a border crisis. That was a year ago. Today, 50 illegal aliens were there. Now, 50, that would be 2 rows here. Not the whole center section, not that section, 2 rows. There you go. 50. Entered Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard has a population of 17,000 people. The median home price is over $1 million. And they're all sitting there. I guess they stopped playing polo for a moment, and they lost their ever-loving minds. And look, it was a beautiful example because, you know, one of the residents of Martha's Vineyard is a guy named Barack Obama. Now, he's a former government employee, so he just has a $12 million compound, 30 acres. 50 illegal immigrants, Obama, the emperor of amnesty, how many did he take in? That would be 0. All of these ever-loving liberal hypocrites. How many did they take in? 0. And what happened today? They declared a crisis. And then, today, AOC a gift that keeps on giving. AOC sent out a tweet today that said, shout out to the people of Massachusetts and to the people of Martha's Vineyard for demonstrating the very best of American values. Flag emoji. I actually didn't know she knew how to type an American flag emoji. I was surprised it wasn't the Chinese communist emoji. But I just said, hey, look, this is awesome AOC has told us this. Because what did the rich liberals in Martha's Vineyard do? They deported them within 24 hours. And by the way, it's not just Martha's Vineyard. Washington, D.C. proudly declared itself a sanctuary city. Greg Abbott sent about 6,000 illegal aliens. The Democratic mayor lost her mind. She said, this is a crisis. We cannot handle this. And she said, look, we're not a border city. We don't have the infrastructure to deal with this. We're not Texas. No kidding. That's a real quote. The Democratic mayor of New York stomped his foot at a few thousand illegal immigrants and said, it's a crisis that Manhattan can't handle. 50 in Martha's Vineyard, 6,500 in Washington, D.C., about 4,000 in New York. In the same time period under Joe Biden, 4.2 million people have come illegally into this country, the vast majority through the great state of Texas. You know what? They're not wrong that it's a crisis. But if 50 is a crisis in Martha's Vineyard, what about a city like Del Rio, Texas? Del Rio, Texas is a beautiful city down on the Rio Grande, has a population of about 35,000. Del Rio had 15,000 illegal immigrants, mostly Haitians, crossing over into Del Rio on one day. 50 people in 17,000 is a crisis. Half the population of Del Rio crossing in a single day, nothing to see here. The value of this is the left is showing what utter and complete hypocrites they are. And so I want to encourage you. There are people that are saying, this doesn't make any sense. This is nutty. Like what you say is not what you do. And so I believe come November, I think we're going to see a phenomenal election. I think we're going to see Republicans retake the House. I think we're going to see Republicans retake the Senate. And I want to say all of y'all here, I believe, are critical to that. You know, beforehand, I was talking with a reporter outside who asked, said, you know, why speak to young people? And I'll give you 3 reasons. Number one, it's everyone in this room. You guys are getting screwed worse than anybody else. It's your future that's getting sold down the river. This debt that these socialists are piling up are packed on your back. It's your future career that is being imperiled. It is your rights. Free speech, religious liberty, the right to keep and bear arms. Your fundamental rights that are being threatened more than anyone else, number one. Number two, what do young people bring? Young people bring energy, joy, passion. Keep that energy. That is what a revolution is fought with, is the energy and passion of young people. But number 3, look, Republicans, unfortunately, are almost genetically incapable of communicating. Like, how many Republican politicians seems like they have a stick inserted somewhere it doesn't belong? And if we're going to save this country, what we've got to do is we've got to reach the hearts and minds of millions of people across this country who aren't paying much attention. They're listening to music, they're watching TV, they're doing this or that, but they're not focused on their rights being sold down the river. They're not focused on the free enterprise economy that built the most prosperous nation in history being destroyed by radicals in Washington. And if you listen to some old, bald, fat Republican who talks like an accountant, puts on a green eye shade, goes, you know, the long-term actuarial soundness of the Social Security system is severely imperiled. There are a few of us who might be like, okay, I hear what you're saying. But most people, they've gone to sleep in the first sentence. Each of you has a platform. Each of you has a voice. You know, you might be thinking, listen, I'm young. I need to wait till I'm 30 or 40 or 50. But the beauty of it is, if you're in college, if you're in high school, if you're in junior high, you have a voice with your friends. You have a voice with your classmates. Those of you who are on social media, you have a voice on social media. And what I'd say is use humor. Tell stories. Explain why it matters to you to be free. That's powerful. Listen, one of the things that I try to do is find ways to connect that people will hear. Every week I do a podcast. Podcast is called Verdict with Ted Cruz. We launched it 2 years ago. Shortly after launching it, became the #1 ranked podcast in the world. We have had over 40 million downloads. We get every week more viewers than CNN's morning show. And what we try to do on the podcast every week is just go and explain what the heck's going on with real substance so that you can understand in 20, 30 minutes, this is what's happening right now. Not the spin, not the lies from the corporate media, but this is in fact what's happening with real substance to then equip you to talk to your friends. And so I want to ask each of you to pull out your cell phones. Pull out your cell phones and text the word verdict, VERDICT, to the number 24005. Again, that number is 24005. Text the word verdict. What will come back is a link to subscribe to the podcast. Because what we're trying to do is empower an army of patriots, an army of young people, to be able to say when you're talking to your friends and they say, man, isn't AOC cool? To know enough to say, no, there's nothing cool about a wild-eyed socialist who's a fraud. And I want to encourage you also. You know, the left right now, they're angry. They're shrill. How many radical leftists does it take to screw in a light bulb? That's not funny! Like they're wound so bloody tight. So don't respond in kind. Don't be mean and nasty back at them. Just laugh at them. Just laugh. There's a meme online. It's a picture of me. And it says under it, this man ate my son. I saw it. I retweeted it. I said, he was delicious. There's power to just laughing. They lose their minds because it is so serious. And by the way, your classmates, the ones who aren't talking about it, you think they think that seems like fun, the hysterical yelling idiot? Be a happy voice for freedom. And I got to tell you, in January, I look forward to walking down a hallway in the United States Capitol, and I'm going to bump into a little man in overalls carrying a screwdriver, coming to change the sign on Nancy Pelosi's door. And Nancy is going to get on her broom. No, okay, that's not fair. That's not right. Nancy is going to get on her private jet, the USS Broom, and she's going to fly back to California. And by the way, for her sake, I really hope her husband doesn't pick her up at the airport. And Chuck Schumer is going to get on the Acela and head back to Manhattan. And then we're going to tell Joe Biden that it's 2025, and he'll just wander back to Delaware. We're on the verge of something amazing. We're on the verge of something magical. You know, as I look out at you guys, I remember when I was in school. So I was born in 1970. I was 9 years old, 1979, when Jimmy Carter was president. When Jimmy Carter was president, we had skyrocketing inflation. We had crime waves across the country. We had gas lines going around the block. We had our hostages stuck in Iran, held by radical terrorists for 444 days, while a weak and incompetent president wrung his hands. Thank God something like that could never happen again. Look, there's an old line that history doesn't repeat, but sometimes it rhymes. I think Joe Biden is eerily, uncannily like Jimmy Carter. Right now today in Georgia, Jimmy Carter is going, yes, not worst president ever. But why is it that that analogy gives me so much hope and gives me so much encouragement? Because it took Jimmy Carter to give us Ronald Reagan. I was 10 years old when Reagan became president. I was 18 when he left the White House. I went through elementary school and junior high and high school, and I started college with Reagan in the White House. And it was amazing to see everything that had been going wrong turn around right. To see the economy booming, to see jobs roaring, to see the military strong, to see the Soviet Union defeated. It was so powerful, so Reagan barely beats Carter in 1980. Things were going so well. There was so much prosperity. Do any of y'all know how many states Reagan won in 1984 on re-elect? 49 out of 50. That's how powerful things can turn around. And as I look at the idiotic radicalism of Biden and Harris and Schumer and Pelosi. It is opening people's eyes, and I think we're on the verge of another revolution. And it is the young people here, it is each of you who are the same age I was when that happened. I got to see it and be part of it and say, we can have mourning in America. We can fight for freedom. We can fight for the Constitution. We can fight for the Bill of Rights. We can fight for America. That's what y'all are doing, and I am proud to be fighting alongside you. Thank you. God bless you.
Wow, what an awesome night, right? Well, guys, greet Senator Cruz on your way out, but make sure that you're here early. Doors open at 8 a.m. Be here at the very beginning. It kicks off at 9 a.m. and it goes to 6. We have an action-packed lineup, so be a part of the entire day tomorrow. Come ready. We'll see you then. God bless you. Bye-bye.